Let's tackle Leetcode problem 2401, longest Nice Subarray. The problem gives us an array called nums containing positive integers. The goal is to find the longest subarray. A subarray is considered if the bitwise AND of every pair of elements at different positions within that subarray is equal to 0. A subarray is a contiguous part of the original array, and any subarray of length 1 is automatically considered nice. We're given two examples, and constraints indicate that the length of the array nums can go up to 10 to the power of 5, and the values within nums can be up to 10 to the power of 9. Here's how we can solve this problem efficiently using a sliding window approach. We'll use a variable used to keep track of the bitwise OR of all numbers in the current window, initialized to 0. We use J to denote start of window, initialized to 0. Res will store the maximum length found so far, also initialized to 0. We iterate through the nums array using a for loop, with I as the index and num as the current element. Inside the loop, we have a while loop. This while loop checks if the bitwise AND of used and num is not 0. If it's not 0, it means we have a conflict. A bit is set in both used and the current number. So, to remove the conflict from our window, we shrink the window from the left. We shrinkly have a conflict CX, with the element at index j, which removes its contribution, and then increment j. This continues until the conflict is resolved. Once the while loop finishes, no conflict, we include current numbers bits into used using bitwise OR. Then we update res with the maximum length, which is I minus j plus 1. Finally, after the loop, return res. Let's break down the code in more detail. We initialize used to 0. This variable will store the bitwise OR of all the numbers currently in our sliding window. J is the starting index of our window, initially 0. Res will store the maximum length of a nice subarray found so far, also initially 0. The for loop iterates through the array. I represents the current index, and num is the value at that index. Inside the loop, the while loop is crucial. Used and num equals 0 checks if there is any bit that is set to 1 in both used and num. If there is, that means the current subarray is not nice. Inside the while loop, used caret equals nums. Removes the bits of nums from used. We are effectively shrinking the window from the left. J plus equals 1 moves the start of the window one position to the right. The while loop continues as long as there's a bit conflict. Once the conflict is resolved, the while condition is false. Used equals num adds the bits of the current number num to used. Finally, res equals max. Res I j plus 1 updates res with the maximum length seen so far. We calculate the current window length as I j plus 1. After checking all possible subarrays, we return the final res. The time complexity is big O of n, where n is the length of the input array nums. This is because, in the worst-case scenario, each element might be visited twice, once by the I pointer, and potentially once by the j pointer. However, the j pointer can only move a total of n times across the entire execution, so the overall complexity remains linear. The space complexity is big O of 1, which is constant. We're only using a few extra variables, used, j, and res, whose size does not depend on the input size. These variables take up a fixed amount of memory, regardless of how large the input array is. That's the longest Nice Subarray problem. It's a great example of how the sliding window technique can be used to solve problems involving subarrays efficiently. If you found this explanation helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Let me know what other Leetcode problems or topics you'd like to see covered in this series. And if you'd like to support me and help me continue making these videos, you can donate at buymeaboba.com. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching.